Deputy Presiding Officer. A number of years ago, when Labour was preparing for the 1997 election with the hope of forming the next Westminster Government, I had the good fortune to work with Shadow Disability Minister Tom Clarke MP on our party's manifesto for disabled people and employment. There were those at that time who said that a choice had to be made, that government should either support sheltered employment or support access to mainstream jobs for disabled people. Tom Clarke rejected that and concluded that we should support disabled workers both in specialised workplaces and in the wider labour market, given the wide range and variety of disabilities that such workers face. That remains the right approach today. My first oral question to Jim Mather after he took office was on the 31st of May 2007, when I asked him to meet management and unions at Remploy to discuss what the Scottish Government could do to help Aberdeen and other Remploy factories to achieve a sustainable future as supported employment providers. I was delighted that the Minister agreed to meet me and further agreed to involve management and unions in discussions around promoting use of Article 19 in public procurement across Scotland. That was helpful, and the commitments which John Swinney gave to Helen Eadie last year showed that that was a worthwhile exercise. In particular, the setting of the objective that every public body should aim to have at least one contract with a supported factory or business. What is needed now is to go beyond setting an aim to achieving that result. And that is where a government champion for disabled workers comes in, someone whose job it is to ensure that public bodies actually deliver on the objective they have been set. I am delighted that the Scottish Parliament has been the first body to place a contract under Article 19 in Scotland, but it must not be the last. To agree that the use of Article 19 is desirable is a vital first step, but it is the job of government to ensure that it is delivered. Of course.
Jack Macdonald.
I'm sure Lewis Macdonald would agree with me that the workers at Remploy in Wishaw, like workers at Remploy across the whole country, have responded well to the very difficult choices made by management in Remploy over recent years, and that they are still determined to make a success of the company and their productions. Would Lewis Macdonald agree with me that one of the ways in which these actions by public agencies in Scotland could be encouraged would be to name and shame those councils and other public bodies in Scotland that are not using Article 19, and perhaps this is a suggestion the Scottish Government could take on board at a central level?
I certainly think it is a very positive suggestion. I hope it is one to which the Minister will respond. And indeed, the Minister has made the right noises too on the issue of social enterprises, but sadly those right noises have not always been matched by the right outcomes. And the Minister will recall the case of ICANN in Aberdeen, where he did intervene at the point at which the Council threatened with its closure and look to create a social enterprise to deliver that supported employment provider a future. Sadly, that did not happen. It is important now that as we look at the case of Glencraft, that we do not have the same disappointment of the hopes that have been raised by support from central and local government for the creation of a Glencraft 2. Ministers have encouraged the workforce so far. They must stick with the project until it is really up and running, and if they do so, they can help to make a difference. I began by mentioning Remploy Aberdeen in my constituency. That factory is now leading the way within the Remploy brand in piloting a social enterprise model there too. It is doing so with full support from UK ministers and in tandem with plans for a recruitment branch to get disabled people into mainstream employment. That twin-track approach, as Tom Clarke recognised, is the right way forward. I hope Scottish ministers will also give it their practical support in both word and deeds, so that places like Glencraft and Remploy can continue to serve a very useful function into the future.